Hi, I'm Vaishali Dhingra, Professor of Strategic Management. Of late, we have been witnessing a lot of turmoil, changes, upheavals in strategic management in various types of organizations across the world. Given this pandemic, COVID 19, especially since the outbreak of this pandemic since January 2020, all the organizations, be it educational institutions, be it manufacturing industries, I mean all kinds of organizations all across, there have been some drastic changes. If the businesses wanted to be in business, they inevitably had to change. Be it motor companies, be it educational institutions, they all underwent severe changes in their policies, in their strategies. Now, just imagine if you were to wear the same blue suit to workplace every day, visiting the same cafe every day, or visiting the restaurant and having the same kind of food, say idli, dosa, sambar every day. Will you relish it? Perhaps no. Actually, across the world, people are looking forward to change. If the organizations don't innovate, if they don't change, there are certain unseen, inevitable circumstances which force them to change. There goes the traditional model of strategic management. We all know it starts with environmental scanning. Then we formulate the strategy, then we implement it, and then we evaluate it or control it. Now, what goes into environmental scanning is that we are required to, scan, monitor, or put at surveillance the various kinds of forces that might influence our business in some way or the other. I'm not talking about the traditional internal forces, the internal factors like organizational structure, like resources, like people of your organization. They're easy to manage. I'm actually talking about those forces which are difficult, which are different in nature, and which are perhaps a bit tedious to manage for every organization. Maybe some change in the economic environment affects my organization more as it affects your organization. In comparison, maybe my organization is affected more by some amendment made by a political party then it influences yours. So, largely, if we see the scenario, we have to scan the environmental forces. Now, one such environmental factor which we all witnessed during past few years, I must say now, was the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. We all suffered from it, but the organizations which actually, believe me, which actually took this change as a smooth ride, they emerged as winners. Now, what kind of organizations are these? You will say that I don't want to wear the same blue suit to workplace every day. No, I don't relish idli sambar every day, or I don't relish a bread toast every day with coffee. I want something different in my menu on every weekday. This is what people are also looking forward to from organizations. A number of educational institutes are now working in hybrid mode. They've introduced capsule programs. I mean, due weightage is being given to the fact that the retention ratio of lectures, I mean, it's actually very low. Gone are the days when the educational institutes, they used to make their students sit for hours together and deliver the talk. It used to be a one-way communication. I mean, no longer these approaches are valid. Very small capsule courses have been launched by online service providers like Coursera, Udemy, edX, so on and so forth. Swayam, NPTEL, if we talk about the Indian initiatives of Indian government, so on and so forth, right? So, actually, if the educational institutes don't undergo these changes, maybe their survival will be, or I say, might be at stake, right? So, During the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, let's talk about the automobile sector. Companies like Ford, like General Motors, which ruled the scenario at one point of time in Detroit, USA, they underwent drastic change. They started manufacturing PPE kits, face masks, respirators, ventilators. I mean, can you imagine an automobile company manufacturing ventilators or respirators for that matter? No, it's beyond imagination. And for that matter, liquor companies, our own very Indian Radico Khaitan, based at Rampur, Uttar Pradesh, it started manufacturing sanitizers, hand sanitizers. Isn't it a very different kind of change? But actually, these organizations which I just now named, they were forced by the scenario, the changing environmental factors, they were forced to change. Now, my submission to the audience is actually, if we are not forced upon these changes, shouldn't we as organizations initiate the change? Or else we'll be extinct one day like Kodak, right? So there were companies which ruled the scenario at one point of time, which are extinct like dinosaurs now. What is your say about it? Now, moving ahead with this COVID-19 scenario, if we talk about majority of the schools across the world, they all of a sudden they switched over to online platforms like Zoom, like Google Meet. Had it not been these kind of service providers, what would be the state of education across the world? Just imagine. How would you be conducting your official meetings had it not been Zoom or such kind of online platforms, right? So if we want to stay in business, I must say that we have to adapt ourselves with agility. We have to adapt ourselves. Agility and innovation is the key to survival of business nowadays. Now, if we talk about implementation, after all, we have to formulate some strategy if we want to proceed to this third major step of strategic management process. Now, how should we formulate this strategy? Your simple answer would be the traditional approach of formulating the strategy is that we must look around for our competitors. We must look around to the probable new entrants in the market, the suppliers, the buyers. I mean, we'll talk about the traditional five-force model of Michael Porter, right? Now, if we talk about this traditional traditional five-force model given by Michael Porter, I'll again say, did you ever imagine that a company like ITC, which was always in tobacco business at one point of time, would be ruling your kitchen with Ashirwad Attas or with pulses or ready-to-eat mixes or even biscuits and cookies for that matter? No, we had never imagined that a tobacco company would be a new entrant in this area, and during COVID-19 pandemic, since it took over Savlon, we are aware of it, since it took over Savlon years back, it also launched a surface disinfectant which was quite popular during COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this is agility, this is quickness to respond to a given situation. My submission again would be that we must not be forced upon to think. We must not be forced upon to react. Our reaction should be so smooth, it should be so spontaneous that it should go unnoticed by our customers, that we are innovating. We are always responsive to their needs, which are ever changing. The needs which were shared by at one point of time by your grandparents were not the same as your parents had, or the needs which you are having now are altogether different, right? Be it education, be it the commodities that you are using. My grandparents or your grandparents must have never heard about The ready to eat mixes. I mean, had I raised this point to my grandmother, she would have raised her brows like this, isn't it? Is there something called ready to eat mix? The females of the house or even the male counterparts, they used to work for the whole day in the kitchen, in case if they were to host the dinner of some guests during the evening. This is not the scenario. You just pick up your phone, you select the menu, and Zomato or Swiggy will be at your doorstep, right? This was not the scenario even during the time of your parents. So things are changing at such a fast pace. How can we sit at rest and be dormant? We can be dormant. It can be your choice also. As a matter of fact, we can either choose to be a Fabian entrepreneur or a drone entrepreneur. We can react slowly or we cannot react at all to the situation. The outcome is obvious. The outcome is that for sure we will be out of our business within within a jiffy. Within no time we'll be out of business, and there will be competitors who are ready to grab your market share. Will you relish the idea of it? Perhaps no. Perhaps no. Right? So, agility is the key word. We need to formulate a strategy which engulfs what people want. We have to be very responsive, very quick as to what people want now, and we have to change accordingly. Our strategy largely should be based upon this quickness to respond. That's all I want to talk to you in this session of mine. We'll be meeting during several more similar sessions in the near future. Thank you. Have a nice time.